Wonderful. So welcome everyone to the June 7th regular board meeting of the Gateway Community Charter. And as we have been doing for some time, we are streaming live on YouTube. And hopefully we have people who are joining us through that medium. I want to welcome all the staff and board members who are here. We are starting with roll call. So Mr. Anderson.
Here.
Mr. Block. Mr. Block is here. I can see him, so I will accept his muted state, but he is present.
Here.
Mr. Turner.
Present.
Ms. Campbell is not with us this evening, and I'm Bruce Manager, Vice President of the Board. So we have a majority, and we will move along to the SB 361 board resolution, which is a board resolution required by the state so that we can, in fact, be remote for our board meeting. I would entertain a motion to approve the SB 361 board resolution.
So moved.
Mr. Anderson moved.
Second.
Second with Jack. All those in favor? Well, I guess we have to do a roll call. Mr. Anderson.
Yes.
Mr. Block.
Yes.
Mr. Turner.
Yes.
And I vote yes. That's 4-0. And so that passes that resolution. Moves us to public comment. Do we have any public comment?
Mr. Vice President, we have no public comment that have came in for tonight's meeting.
Okay, very good. Well, brings us to item number 4 on the agenda, which is the superintendent's update. Dr. Peterson.
Thank you, Mr. Manager. Just a few things. We spent all of last week celebrating promotions and graduations all day, every day. Well, I want to affirm all of our staff who worked hard to make it a special week and special moments for each of our graduates or promotees. And wish that we could have all been together and the board could have been there, but we represented for you there, and it was a great end of year for our students. Also, we have been working each week, as you're aware, on end of year presentation review, a few of which you're going to see tonight, and have a few more ahead after this meeting as well. Staff is deep in planning for the admin retreat. We're going to do a day and a half here in June in the next week, and then another 2 days in July. Also, we are working on our end of year evaluations for administrators, our ROPE as we call it, and as well as for other staff, and have had some good reflections with staff on areas of strength and areas of opportunity and ways to move forward and provide even more within our roles for our students. Also, I've been working with Ed Services on a new plan for our GCC teacher leaders, which is something we have done 2 cohorts with and are going to start a 3rd a little differently next year. Kind of excited to be doing that work. And then we have been meeting with principals regarding staffing for next year. Everybody wants everything, so I get to be the bad person who says no, but that's not unusual. Every year this time of year is like that. Also, we are continuing to review organizational functions within different departments. As you know, we have some changes in roles and functions, so just making sure that we understand who is doing what roles as we move into next year. Also, every one of our campuses has a significant summer school program of some kind. Really want to affirm any staff that might be listening or staff that are on the Zoom with us. We have a number of people who are ensuring that we have administration of our summer school programs, as well as really providing some good expanded learning opportunities through the summer. Also want to give you an update on COVID-19. As you know, we've had a significant increase in COVID case rates in both of the counties in which we serve. We continue in our sites to implement health and safety protocols, including providing testing kits for students and staff. The county is hinting that we will be bringing back a limited mask mandate in Sacramento County, and some local school districts have also transitioned to masking voluntarily. Sauk City is one of those. As we get closer to the end of the year, also am continuing to attend various events, including the Superintendent's Council. I know that we have other people also attending a number of different areas in order to continue our influence across the state. I want to affirm all of our staff who I know is tired. They've been through a lot, but they're working really hard, continuing to work hard to do the good work. As you know, these last few weeks are, how do we wrap up a great year? How do we get everything in place for another great year? And that takes a lot from people. So I definitely want to affirm all of our staff. And that's my update. Can't hear you, Mr. Manager.
Okay, thank you. You know, we've only been doing this for what, 2 years now? You know, we're finally maybe getting the hang of it, but not quite. Okay, so that moves us to our study session for the evening, and we have 2 presentations from 2 of our great schools, CCCS and GIS, and I have already noted that a lot of the staff members from each school are here present, so I will turn it over to the superintendent for introductions.
So yes, we're going to start with Community Collaborative Charter School, and just a reminder that under the umbrella of CCCS, as you will, we have numerous programs, right? And the 2 that we'll highlight today will be our McClellan 9 through 12 program and our CCS K-8 program. I know both of our vice principals next year to be campus principals are here with us today. And they are under the direction of John Campbell, our long-term CCS principal. Great team, kind of a homegrown team. And I'm very proud of all 3 of them. And I know John is going to lead them and you through a great annual presentation. So John, the floor is yours.
All right, I'm going to share my screen. Can I get a thumbs up that you guys can see my presentation? All right, I can only see a few of you, and those of you that I can see gave me the thumbs up. So Dr. Peterson, thank you for the introduction. Welcome, Vice President Mandrix, members of the GCC board, GCC cabinet. It's my privilege and honor to get to present some of the great things we have going on at Community Collaborative Charter School during the 2021 and 22 school year, and even a little bit of a glimpse into what we're going to be doing going into next year. So before I jump into today's agenda that you see here, I just want to take a moment and just affirm and show respect to every staff member at CCCS. As Dr. Peterson alluded to a little bit in her superintendent's update, it has been a very challenging year for all staff. And so many of the things that we try to ask of our students, really resiliency, grit, perseverance, really our staff was modeling that in so many excellent ways this year. And so if any of the CCS staff members are out there watching us on YouTube, I just want to take this minute to affirm you, as well as to affirm my 2 colleagues here joining me today who you're going to hear from. I'm going to cover our good things, student achievement and curriculum, coherence and LCAP slides. Vice Principal Angie Prexai-Von-Briones is going to cover equity, inclusion, and diversity, as well as parent and community. Vice Principal Michelle Jordan is going to cover SEL and impact, and then I'll be wrapping it up with what's next and answering any questions that you guys might have. So next, obviously, we're moving into good things. That's what we do here at GCC. And at CCCS, we're proud to say that we are a 5th time in a row, a CKH Captain Kids Heart Showcase School. And so that's something that we put a lot of effort and energy into, and we're very proud of that. In addition, we're also extremely proud of our 6-year WASC accreditation that we received this year in April after our February self-study. It was a very affirming time for all school staff members because the committee really resonated and agreed with both the areas of growth and the areas of identified need that we identified through the self-study process. So it was really good to have them, come in and connect with staff and hear that many of the voices that we heard along the way were also the voices and the thoughts and things that came out during the committee meetings. So again, many other good things, really great things, in my opinion, going on at CCCS. Instead of showing you the bullet points, I'm going to show you some pictures that represent some of those good things. Another good thing is some of the partnerships that we're creating. That's really a big part of what we do at CCCS. In the top left corner, you're going to hear more about the Dream It Be It project and our partnership with the Seroptimist. Michelle Jordan will tell you more about that. I want to affirm her for her work and leadership at our school in that project. Also, we have a picture on the bottom right of the Firehouse Community Center Cafe, really affirmed Jason Sample and community engagement specialist Maisha Britt for her work to make, really, support both those partnerships to come alive. And then last picture I want to highlight for our CKH right there in the center middle. There's a staff member holding up a funky looking trophy with a stuffed animal on her desk. Like, what's that about, right? That's just one of the ways that we celebrate staff. Miss Salve, who's pictured there, she's our RSP teacher at the main campus, and she was recognized as our GOAT of the month. And that's an affirmation. Let me be clear. GOAT's an acronym if you're a sports fan that stands for greatest of all time. And what I love about this award is it wasn't something where school administration said, hey, this person's doing a good job, let's recognize them. This award came from other staff members who saw the great work that Ms. Salve was doing on our campus and felt that she deserved recognition for it. Again, all things that are just an important part of our school culture. So moving on, I know we've had a few of these presentations already. So board, I know you're well aware of this graphic and how much it is a focus for us in GCC this year and definitely at CCCS. So we're going to talk a little about some of the ways that we attempt to maximize in all these areas and really hit that sweet spot of impact in the middle. And the first area, of course, is student achievement. And what you see here are a couple of Iready graphs. This is the first year that we transition away from Renaissance Learning and Iready. I'm going to explain those graphs in a second. But what I love about Iready, it's not just that it provides us an assessment platform, but it has a really good series of ongoing lessons and ways that teachers can engage students to help close the achievement gap at the individual student level. So if you look closely at the data, what you're going to see is that students didn't make the growth that we wanted at the end of the year. And I don't want to make excuses. I can give you some reasons why I feel like some of that was happening, but we're not looking at them as excuses. We're looking at this as a need to do more and do better going into next school year. One way is that we've started to tackle this already, as you can see on the fourth bullet, that we have teachers who are all but one is Project GLAD trained, and they're implementing it in their classrooms. And so the first day back after school ended, that first Tuesday after Memorial Day, the next 3 days, all of our teachers were on campus participating in unit design, lesson plan preparation for the next school year collaboratively with other teachers to make sure that we are just ready to blast off at the very beginning of the school year. So a lot of things good happening at the KA campus in regards to student achievement, but we're definitely striving for better growth next year. For our high school campuses, definitely some great things going on there as well. I'd like to affirm Dr. Peterson for providing me the opportunity to do some coaching sessions with her around the AASA project through UC Davis. And the main thing that her and I talked about when it came to data was some of the data you see here on the screen around monthly block credit data achievement. I'm going to explain that in a second. But again, you can read some of the other great things that we did this year, our use of Read 180, which is an intervention curriculum to support our EL and special education students. Dr. Peterson, as a former math teacher, made me ensure that I would talk about our program called March Mathness, where we were really pushing kids to accelerate their growth and achievement in math. And I don't have the data listed here for you today, but I can assure you, we have some really good outcomes and students being stronger in math this semester than any in the prior 2 or 3 years based on the data that we saw. So what is the data you're going to look at both here and on the next slide? 4 years ago, we became a comprehensive support and improvement school. I think I got those letters right. Dr. McCormick can probably correct me. Really, it's called program improvement is what the old term was. And we needed to find unique ways to improve our graduation rate. So what we began to do is look at student progress in short 4-week or monthly blocks as a way to predict their success at the end of the semester. It wasn't doing us any good to wait till the end of the year and say, oh, these kids didn't graduate, or even wait to the end of the semester and say they didn't achieve enough this semester. Now they're definitely not on track to graduate. We look at student achievement every 4 weeks to look at student progress and see what else we need to do both collectively and individually for students to keep pushing them on track toward completing a minimum of 25 credits a semester and toward graduation on time. So what you see here are some of the goals that we set and then the actual outcomes for students in all 8 of our blocks for this year. The 3 green blocks are blocks where we, in all cases, as far as exceeded the goal. The one yellow block, we didn't quite get there, and the other ones, we we came up short. So, usually the first month of the semester, because there's a break or a gap in learning, we do experience a little bit of a lower average, as you can see by the averages there in the first block of the fall and the fifth block in the spring. But we're proud that those other numbers have increased over time over the last 3 years, to the point where now we have been exited out of comprehensive school improvement program going into next school year. Another bit of data that I'll share, because it is related to us being in school improvement, is our graduation rate. Our low graduation rate is why we were placed in the program in the first place. And simply what this data is showing is over the past 2 years, we have graduated about the same number of students. Again, this is our internal graduation rate, not what we reported on the state dashboard, because we're trying to create a more accurate snapshot of our students and their progress as they enroll over time. As the board is aware, not all students enter CCCS on day one. And so you can see kind of at the bottom of each set of data how this year we had 35 more students who graduated, but they weren't enrolled with us as of the census date on October 5th, I believe was the date. So, so the fact that we have 82% of students graduating is good, but there are 35 more students who actually graduated that aren't even counted in that total. So to me, we're consistently graduating students. But some of the students that are coming to us are experiencing learning loss greater than in the past. So we recognize, even though these are positive numbers, we have much work to do moving forward. Next area I want to cover is about curriculum and just the way that we attempt to address this in regards to the coherence model. For us as administrators, curriculum is a resource or a set of resources we provide students to make learning, engagement, instruction come alive. So the way that we make sure that we keep curriculum fresh and that understanding with our teachers is what you see up in the top right corner. I know it's a little bit hard to see, but this is our Coherence Visual. All campuses have these. I'm sure you've seen these for other schools in the past. We have a high school version we're going to share in a couple of minutes. And what this document allows us to do is connect with our educational partners, our teachers, our parents, or parents that are inquiring about enrolling in our school, and showing them how we're doing our best to have resources all really connect with students, the needs of teachers, and the educational goals, again, of our students. So some of the things that we do for the K-8 campus is we have a wonders curriculum, a very strong science curriculum and history curriculum called TCI. And really, we've done extra work not listed here to make sure that we're bringing more culturally responsive curriculum in terms of novels and just, all around education materials into our classrooms to build relevance with students. At the K-8 campus, again, curriculum looks a little bit different because we use our Edgenuity curriculum versus a classroom-based model. But here where we're trying to expand is by growing electives and CTE courses, making sure that students are accessing CTE standards and accessing all the things that are necessary to ensure that they can successfully accomplish a pathway. I definitely would like to affirm Director Maury Elliott for his support in just helping me brainstorm ways that we can grow and improve our CTE programs, both the current year and into the future, as well as for supporting us to gain our second K-12 SDWP CTE grant that we'll be implementing next year. The last part that I have under curriculum is around, of course, our LCAP. I know the board is aware that the LCAP plan is something that's in place to drive some of the most important programs and make sure that our most at-risk and high-need students are getting all the services they need in order to, grow at a rate above their peers, because again, they're behind and they have extra needs. At CCCS, we firmly believe that almost every student has a need that puts them in a category where they need extra support. So we definitely have done a good job of making sure that our LCAP is all encompassing and includes as many actions as possible that we feel could potentially support students and student growth. So the last part here is just a few more pictures of what I would call maybe the LCAP in progress, where we have our curriculum coach and CTE teachers working with students. We have some intervention programs going on here in the picture on the top left between some of our younger students and our middle school students, the Read Across America program. So just a lot of good things going on there. Last item that I will highlight is that, Chromebooks and hotspots. I'm sure you guys are looking at the consent agenda, like how many orders of Chromebooks our school is going to be putting through. But In our mind, we are continuing to work to replenish Chromebooks and hotspots because our technology has taken a beating over the past 2 years going home so frequently with students. So even though we spent a lot in this area in prior years, it continues to be a need in the current year LCAP and moving forward. So with that being said, I'm now going to turn it over to my colleague, Vice Principal Angie Prexai-Briones, representing the K8 campus, and she's going to talk to you about diversity, equity, and inclusion.
Thank you. Hello, board members, cabinet, and GIS. John, I would really like to affirm you for your continuous guidance and mentorship of me for the last 10 years here at CCCS, and now especially as I become acclimated to my new role as administrator. It's been a wonderful journey with you. I'd like to first start off by just saying that diversity, equity, and inclusion, especially in our demographic and our environment, is so important because CCCS strives to create a warm, loving, and welcoming environment. We have been actively working to create a culture and climate towards positive equity, inclusion, and diversity with all our students from their culture to their basic needs. And in order for that to happen, we as an organization must ensure that we are intentional in making sure that our scholars and our families feel seen and feel celebrated. I would like to affirm Jason Sample for bringing to light and showcasing this need within the GCC, as well as inviting me to help be part of the team that leads this work called the GCC Equity Team. Throughout CCCS K-12, we have an equity action plan to include all scholars to be successful and provide scaffolds for special populations or high needs. So our school is considered a DAW school, which stands for Dashboard for Alternative School Settings, which means that 70% of our student population are at risk or have at-risk indicators. In order for us to help be inclusive into their education, we need to make sure that we're creating systems in place to support those high need students. I'd like to affirm Dr. Heather Gold, the Director of Academics, for her ongoing support and collaboration in creating these systems of equity on our campus, as well as Dr. Eric Crawford, who is the GCC Director of Special Education and Student Services, for his continuous coaching and guidance, because it's their work together in collaboration with our partnership that we're able to bring the needs of our students to the forefront. Pictured here, as you can see, one of our middle school teachers, she is showcasing her Chinese heritage with her students, in addition to providing culturally relevant instruction. Another way that we ensure that our students are seen and represented is just by celebrating who they are as people, having a multicultural day, partnering with our community. In this, one of the pictures you'll see in the upper right is bringing in for the youth concert with local community artists who just provides an opportunity for students to celebrate their culture. You'll see that various pictures are students wearing their cultural attire on a multicultural day, as well as just having fun and bonding with each other. On the bottom right, you'll see one of our students who started in 7th grade with us, Vincent, and he is particularly special because he's one of the community equity team who worked with our young African-American men to meet their goal of graduating. And you'll see here, he just graduated a couple weeks ago with this newborn baby girl. In addition to creating a welcoming and inclusive environment, we know that we cannot do it alone. And it's the partnership with the parents and partnership with the community, who we refer to as co-teachers, is really the key to ensuring that all of our students are successful. And one of the ways that we do that is just by providing exciting engagement opportunities for them. And one of the biggest things was just making sure that we're shifting from that distance learning to in-person and creating new opportunities, such as the Sacramento Youth Center Learning Hub in Del Paso Heights, having engaging open house events, our first ever dance, and bringing in the petting zoo to our campus, partnering with Hawks Ranch, and just having celebrating each other and our differences. we know that this partnership is very important, and that's what's going to help our students be successful, is just by making sure that we continue to provide these opportunities for our students and our families. And in order for our school to grow and for us to serve our community, social emotional learning is really important to getting the whole child holistically. And to elaborate more on that is going to be Vice Principal Michelle Jordan.
Thank you, Angie. Greetings to the board and all of the cabinet. Thanks for having us tonight so we can showcase everything we've been doing. I also want to affirm Angie, who stepped in mid-year to really an amazing leadership role, and her tireless and energetic righting of the ship at K-8 and getting everyone to row in the same direction and really providing strong, outstanding leadership at that level. So social emotional learning could not be more pertinent or relevant to student success, as we know, after these 2 years of the pandemic. And welcoming students back on campus, we knew that there were going to be struggles that they had to overcome, trauma that all of them were working with. 3 of the things that we've utilized towards this curriculum are our Move This World curriculum at the high school, Capturing Kids' Hearts, which we've mentioned many times. And then this year, our K-8 began their MTSS, or multi-tiered systems of support work. I also want to thank Assistant Superintendent Dr. Chris McCormick for tapping me to work alongside Director Ashley Cow for the next 2 years to help implement the MTSS grant district-wide. So we'll be working with all of the schools to help them as they wend their way through the multi-tiered system of support training for our GCC SOS, or systems of support. Next slide, please. John? Thanks. So some of the ways that we know SEL is making an impact on our students is our school culture surveys. And we were really excited and happy to see this spring when we did our second school culture survey that in all of those indicators for student distress, whether it be stress, anxiety, mental health, or sadness or feelings of depression, they all went down from the previous year. So what we're doing with the students to support them socially and emotionally is working. We have expanded hours for our social worker, and we have for the first time a social worker at our K-8. We expanded hours for our social worker at the high school, which has really helped to address student needs. And we implemented CKH's new premium character lessons, and every month we were highlighting a specific character trait to positively promote. And so, for example, kindness in February. So you can see different ways students are just having a chance to enjoy each other, whether it's Dalmatian Day. We have a little student with his Phoenix feather, celebrating him. We had our little free thrift stop where we provided donated goods for free to the community, and then recognizing our seniors as they graduated. Each time they graduated, they could put their cap up on the wall, and we filled what we thought was going to be a very big space for graduates, and it wasn't nearly enough. So in addition to SEL, I'm going to talk about impact, and my little impact, there we go. the Venn diagram we've been utilizing for this presentation, academic excellence, SEL, and equity, they can't stand alone. But if we use them all together, that's where we create the impact. And this is what we want to highlight, is how we know what we've done this year has worked. Thank you. So as a showcase school, we used the survey results for CCCS. And what we really noticed was that we were consistently outperforming the goals from teacher implementation, staff culture and climate, and showing that we were just both walking the walk and talking the talk. In the little picture in the middle, there's a heart. That was in our main campus learning lab. and students all created little pieces of that heart. It's something we had done a couple of years ago at the administration retreat, and we brought it to the students, and they thoroughly enjoyed adding a piece of their heart to the puzzle. We also had the Hanover School Survey, which my biggest takeaway from that survey was that 100% of the students who responded believe that their teachers want them to succeed. And knowing that their teachers want them to succeed, that's what makes an impact. That's because our school culture, our students, and our families value CCCS, and they feel we make a positive impact on their life. In addition, we also have our community impact. And I know John's trying to click the next slide. There we go. We can see that in a couple of different ways. We've talked about our new partnership with the SAC Youth Center. On the previous slide, we had a picture of students in the music production class that we've instituted there, which is brand new. And in many of the slides here, you can see us making an impact in our community. In the center, we have our service learning seniors who finished their semester-long student-led project by delivering food items to the SAC Food Bank and hygiene items to Loaves and Fishes. So reaching out and becoming a part of their community. We have them at Camp Ross Relis in the bottom right, working together joyfully to help prepare the Lions Club Camp Ross Relis, which is a camp for children with disabilities to enjoy. And they were there spreading the work and spreading the love. We have our Dream It, Be It mural. And I would like to thank both Deputy Superintendent Jason Sample and Community Engagement Officer Maisha Britt for helping us with grant money towards the Dream It, Be It program, but also helping coordinate with the Seroptimists. And then we have pictures of families being impacted at the end of the year and the love and the growth that they are showing from our graduations, our promotions, and our open houses. They were all positive, well-attended experiences, bringing our parent partners and community together. I'm going to turn it back to John with some exciting things of what's coming next.
All right. Thank you, Michelle. And just to wrap up, what are some things that we have coming next or going into next year? Hopefully, it's just continuing our path to taking everything you heard about today and taking that from good to great. And in areas where we already feel we're doing great, we're going to work to not be complacent and just continue to find that next right answer of excellence in the name of our students. So we definitely want to, continue our CKH implementation, increase school-wide enrollment, specifically increasing enrollment in our CTE programs, continuing our equity, inclusion, and diversity work, growing our community partnerships, because that's just a big part of what we do at CCCS. And just improving all around college career readiness for our high school students, doing some of the things that I already talked about, as well as really pushing to ensure that all students are not just, we have the full scope of A through G courses available for high school students. Now we need to push all students to take all those courses as high school students, which because of the multiple credit reduction students receive based on the AB 104 this year, most students have the option to basically, de-incentivize their need to take all A through G courses to graduate, much less, go on to college. So that's definitely a few things we want to try to improve upon for next year, as well as the other things that you see there on the slide. So at this point, we just thank everybody for their time and attention. And if there's any questions or need for more information, we are happy to provide that to you. And I'll stop screen sharing so we can see one another. You don't need to see my thank you slide. All right. Cindy's on mute. I don't think I've ever got to tell Cindy that she was on mute and she didn't know it. The first time.
I'm back on mute again.
Right. So I saw Cindy talking. I would never call out a board member, although maybe I shouldn't call out the superintendent.
I was busy telling Mr. Mandrick he was on mute while I was on mute. So
All right.
there you go.
There it is. All right.
So anyway,
questions?
thank you, John and Michelle and Angie. Very good report, exactly 22 and a half minutes. I appreciate your timing on that. That's very good. And I think I saw Mr. Turner's hand up.
Yes.
John, I want to thank you and your staff for your excellent presentation. Just a couple of questions. On the partnership with American River College, can you kind of go into more depth how you see that working? And do you have students that are taking community college classes now at the same time as they're enrolled in your program?
I'm going to briefly answer that. I'm going to let Ms. Jordan answer the rest of it. And first, thank you, Ms. Turner, for the affirmation. I'm going to say that I'd like to affirm Director Elliott for his leadership in helping us, and I believe futures as well, be able to gain access to the dual enrollment process. One thing we were actually talking about within our leadership team a day or so ago is that we haven't had any students who have attempted to take any AP classes, and that many high schools are going away from AP courses and going to dual enrollment courses, just because it enhances the college preparation experience by the students getting to go and take the class on the campus. So I think we had a couple students that were attending classes at ARC this year. Ms. Jordan can quantify that for you, and we hope to grow that next year through the dual enrollment program. Go ahead, Michelle, fill in my gaps there.
Yeah, so this is a really exciting program, the new dual enrollment program, and I definitely want to affirm Director Elliott for connecting us with this. This is going to be on our school campuses. So the classes that they will take will be virtual classes. We'll start in the fall, and students will be enrolled in basically a introduction to being a community college student class for the fall. And then in the spring, they'll be able to choose their electives from a big number of electives. They're having it virtual so that we can have them on our campus, and the students will be in a classroom with a paraeducator there who is following along the class with them and be able to support them directly. So we want to be able to make sure that they're successful while they're starting these classes. So the fall is sort of an entry, and all students will be enrolled in the same course. And then in the spring, they'll get to move into different electives. And we really are excited. We have 6 freshmen who will be sophomores next year, who will be our inaugural class. And they should be able to, by the time they graduate, earn both their high school diploma and an AA degree if they stay on course.
That's an excellent idea about it being in a classroom with a paraeducator that could help them. And I'm sure American River is excited about getting more students. So I think it's going to be a win-win for everybody. Just a very quick question, John. Where do you see the drama we got the theater there to have a drama program, and I know that COVID pretty much put that on hold. Where do you see that going in the future?
We do hope to re-energize that sometime, not at the beginning of next year, but hopefully to the middle and end. Our challenges were that, as you mentioned, with COVID, some of those programs were hard to sustain. Then the teacher, who was our VAPA teacher, left the school. I tricked her into coming back. You will return to the school. She's actually out on maternity leave with her second child, but she assures me she's coming back in mid-September. So I'm hoping that, COVID and children and all those things that come in the way of good education have gone away. And so with all sincerity, we do hope to try to re-energize those programs next spring, having her back on campus full time and making access to the theater and all the resources that we've gathered over the year. So
something I also wanted to add, I got feedback a little bit, is that we've never truly utilize some sort of visual and performing arts at the K-8 campus, and one of our middle school teacher does have her credential in performing arts, and so one of our goals at K-8 is to put on a play / musical in the upcoming school year. So look forward to that coming soon. And John, I just dropped the ball on you live on YouTube that's going to happen. So
that's great. I think I heard that. So I think I heard that from somebody somewhere, just maybe not from you, and that's okay. And I would say that really was the point where we had our greatest momentum for the visual arts program, is when we were doing some front loading, a little bit of work with our middle school students before they came over to be part of our high school program. So
go ahead, Jack.
Yeah, I really appreciate that, and certainly look forward to seeing that program come back. Finally, you're on the cutting edge of this with the learning loss as a result of COVID. What do we need to do more to try to catch up, or to try to, those students that were in the height of the COVID pandemic and really that this 2-year period, what do we need to do to really try to catch them up? Is there more that we can do?
Well, I'm not sure. I appreciate you saying I'm on the cutting edge. I kind of see it more as the front lines. Honestly, it's just, what I'm going to say is that I'm not sure that just 1 year's worth of education is going to solve that. I'm not sure if all the extra funds we get are just some magic wand that we're going to wave that's going to make that go away. I think it really goes back to the coherence graphic that we were showing, throughout at least my portions of the slide, that we have to be putting strong emphasis on all three areas. I kind of feel that prior to COVID, that academics was super important and SEO was good too. Like, it worked for kids that needed it, but now like everybody needs that. So really having to do all those extra wraparound things, not just do them as, hey, you're not feeling good, go see the counselor, she loves you, right? We really need to be making that more part of our just everyday school experience, right? That happens through the CKH lessons, the character education things that Michelle talked about, our SEL programs that we're working on, just finding ways to connect with students at our school. It's just, in the same way that it kind of progressively happened over time during COVID, we're going to have to progressively chip away at it over time, because the students that we're getting, in the future, students we haven't enrolled yet, especially for high school programs, are going to, come with those needs that maybe even grew this year as well too, with all the stops and starts and ins and outs that schools have. So my short answer, it's going to have to be a collective effort focusing in academics, SEL, and equity over, a long period of time, 2 to 3 years probably.
All right. Thank you, John. And thank your staff again for the presentation.
Great. Thanks. I think that's why Mr. Anderson had his hand up. I know I'm not supposed to be leading the meeting, but Mark, do you have a question?
Yeah, John, first of all, great presentation from you and your staff. I appreciate that. A question regarding year-end surveys. What kind of percentages are you getting when the students and staff as far as responding? Is it a fairly high percentage?
Yeah, I would say that most of the surveys we did throughout the year. I wouldn't say we did them right at the end of the year. But I would say in most cases, we feel like we were getting, 50 to 75% of, staff and parents responding, which parent engagement is definitely an area that we want to improve on. So I feel like I'm saying that number I feel is positive, although we definitely need to do a better job in that area. So, but for some of the surveys were through CKH, especially, they weren't asking us to survey everybody. They really wanted us to limit it to a targeted group of students, but make sure we still kind of address the grade range, us being a K-12, right? So not every single person was being asked to do it. And I'm not sure if they gave us exact number of surveys. I have to look that one up, but yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, any other board members with comments, questions? If not, we'll move to the thanks again, John, and your staff for the presentation. We'll move on to Gateway International School and turn it back to Superintendent for introductions.
Absolutely. Definitely want to affirm Team CCCS. Great job. Looking forward to the many things that you're going to bring into your programs for next year. And so now we're with Gateway International School, and we have with us today a tremendous team as well. We have Ms. Joy DeCoy, who this last year moved into the role of halftime director of IB, as well as staying halftime principal of her site. She has 2 campus principals, Ms. Deep Dillon, Ms. Stephanie Croyle, long-term employees, all from Joy, Deep, and Stephanie, all have grown from within. And for next year, Ms. Joy is going to be moving into yet another role as a full-time director of academics. So excited to see her continue to move into influencing even a greater numbers of administrators with her expertise. And of course, then Deep and Stephanie are going to step into their leadership at the site. Very excited about that as well. But for today, I'm going to turn it over to them. And I know they have a great deal of good things to share with you today.
Thank you, Dr. Peterson. Good evening, everyone. Good evening, Mr. Mangrich, Mr. Turner, Mr. Anderson, Mr. Blog, GCC Cabinet, and CCCS team. Great job on your report as well. I really enjoyed that picture of your students with their Tongan mats wrapped around them. That was amazing. Great job. And so it's my pleasure to share with you tonight our presentation. And as Dr. Peterson mentioned, we do have Ms. Croyle and Ms. Dillon here with you. But one of the great things about GIS is our strong administrative team. And here you'll see pictures of them in one of our virtual back to school nights that we did at the beginning of the year. Because of this team, we've had a very successful school year. I'd like to thank Mr. Roman Palomar, our site manager. He's down there in the bottom right corner. And him and his custodial team helped us mitigate all of the COVID requirements and restrictions. Ms. Maria Chernioglu and her ACES team for our after school. Mr. Daniel Bubella, who is our parent liaison, and also seems to be a chameleon who can transform in the blink of an eye to anything we need him to be. And not forgetting Mr. Adrian Pierre, our curriculum coach, PYP coordinator, and our counselor, Ms. Samantha Olson. This team is a great thing at GIS. And also a good thing to celebrate this year is that we were honored to be a CKH National Showcase School for the 6th year in a row. And Mr. Pierre worked really hard to follow up on some opportunities from last year to create and turn them into a good thing for this year. And that is our PYP success of revising our units to be encompassing of all subjects. And we actually received a very nice commendation from IB about that work in the elementary program. It's been a good thing in my role as director of IB that we've had additional collaboration time with HLA and with EPIC. And not only that, but with other schools in the United States and with IB practitioners around the world due to me becoming an IB evaluator this year. I'm just really proud of our site for being able to overcome all of the challenges of distance learning and the pandemic struggles that we've had. So I'm going to turn it over to Ms. Dillon, who will share with you more good things, more specifics about starting with our student achievement.
Good evening, everyone. So we're starting off with this slide for our student achievement, just as a quick recap of where we stand with our state testing. And the California dashboard for 2019 shows we are in green for both ELA and math, school-wide, and for all subgroups except English learners who are in yellow, with a very high progress of 65% students. In 2019, our ELA scores were 9.6 points above standard, and our math scores, while still in green, were 11.6 points below standard. Since 2019, we have made math as our focus. With that, I'm leading into our next slide, which talks about our local assessment data that is taken from our new Iready assessment that all GCC schools had given this school year. Our Iready scores are split up by elementary and middle school, and this slide reflects that we are mitigating learning loss with a large percentage of students moving from below grade level to at or exceeding grade level. In reading, we went from 19 students to 150 students at or above grade level. In math, if you look at that chart, we went from 10 students to 121 students at or above grade level. The positive growth could be contributed to the adoption of the new Iready math curriculum, partnered with our Iready intervention program, which is aligned to this Iready assessment. For this, I would like to thank Dr. McCormick for bringing Iready assessment to GCC and Dr. Gold for her leadership in implementing it with excellence. For MYP, the results show a growth for both reading and math, but also shows there is a need to continue and increase intervention support for middle school. In reading, we did go up from 20 to 28% of our students in green, and in math, we started off the year with 14% to 31% students in green. in this slide, we took the data and desegregated it even further by grade level. These charts show the percentage of students at or exceeding grade level standard, which kind of aligns with how CAS scores come in play. So if we look at first grade for reading, I want to point out that we started the year off with 7% of students at or exceeding grade level standards, which jumped to 56% in the spring. For math, I would like to highlight kindergarten, which also started at 7% of students exceeding and to 76% students proficient. This was the first time for at least these little kiddos to take such diagnostic. So that's great progress and growth. The next slide, much of our academic achievement is due to our focus on excellent instruction. Our teachers have done an amazing job while still dealing with excessive challenges this school year. This chart shows the core components of student achievement and school improvement at GIS. Our school leadership team determined reading, social emotional learning, writing, and math as the 4 key areas to support students. In addition to this framework, we have more detailed documents that link the key areas to Common Core standards, curriculum expectations, student supports, and learning outcomes. Our focus is that all students will read fluently on grade level, produce effective writing, apply mathematical procedures while they're still building their social emotional skills. To support the student achievement through Coherence, we partnered with Lyle Kirkman and Wendy DeVoe to conduct cycles of inquiry for students and cycles of inquiry for teachers. This is a picture of our 5th grade students who did their own inquiry into food waste as their culminating project for PYP. Our curriculum coach completed a curriculum review process for adopting the new science curriculum, I should say. This is a picture of some of our parents reviewing the 3 different science curricula we had to display on campus, after which all parents had an opportunity to give us feedback through a Google form on the 3 curricula. And next year, we are wanting to do a similar process to adopt the new social sciences curriculum. So the last slide I will be highlighting today is on diversity, equity, and inclusion. So at GIS, all of our decisions we make, we always consider our diverse student population, how these decisions will affect the students, and how these decisions will include all students. So our diversity, equity, and inclusion goal was that by May of 2022, English learners, special education, socioeconomically economically disadvantaged students, and African American subgroups will improve in Iready scores by 5% for reading and math. And as you can see in this group, in this chart, we have all subgroups met the desired 5% growth. I think we actually outperformed our goal and probably need to make a more rigorous goal moving into next school year. For reading, we saw that our African American students grew from the initial 18% to 51% of them, 51% of the students at or exceeding grade level standards. For math, our special education students' initial score was at 0% and it increased to 20%. Comparing our diverse population to all students, all subgroups made greater growth in reading than all students school-wide. In math, 3 of the 5 subgroups made greater growth than all students school-wide. All of this data kind of helps us see that we are narrowing the achievement gap for all subgroups. And now I'm going to turn it over to Ms. Croyle to talk about parent and community.
Thank you, Ms. Dillon. So good evening. So we have our parent and community slide here, and our parent and community engagement really began the way it ended the previous year, which was virtually. So even though we were tied to a virtual platform. We really conducted our events with great success. We held our school site council meetings, our ELAC meetings, and our monthly student assemblies. And also every year we have an IB night, which is always one of my favorite evenings. And it always involves a basket raffle. And that's so much fun. And we kind of had to figure out how to do that virtually. And we still had the virtual basket raffle. So the kids were still really involved, and parents were as well. So the first picture we have is of a very well-established family on campus. We've had many of their children, and they're visiting our kindergarten teacher, Ms. Vesky's classroom during open house. So open house in April this year was the first time that our families were able to come onto campus and actually see the modernization project that had been going on for years. So we had the modernization project going on, and then COVID hit. So no one was able, besides the students, of course, was able to come see what we had. So they were really excited about that. And I think almost every single family showed up this year, which has never happened before. So it was wonderful. Everyone had a wonderful time. They enjoyed hot dogs. We ate them safely outside. Also during our open house, we have Ms. Uchler's class represented in the picture on the top. And she engaged the families in having the parents answer questions on International Baccalaureate learner profile attributes to earn credit for their students. Now, Daniel is in the upper right-hand corner with the boxes of food. In the month of November, we partnered with KCRA Channel 3 and held a food drive. And this was the most generous offering we had ever had or seen on campus. And we were really proud of the outpouring of love that our families showed. And in the lower right-hand corner, we have Mr. Roman, and he is passing out boxes from the Sacramento Food Bank. They delivered 75 boxes every Friday for 13 weeks. And so we were able to give out 975 boxes to families in need of food. So that was wonderful. I would like to thank David Banuelos for getting us in touch with Sacramento Food Bank, and Maisha Britt for supporting us with all of our technological virtual events, including our promotional ceremony, and Sergey Cherebkov for all of his support on campus this year as well. I thank you. So for our social emotional learning, GIS had never had a full-time counselor. We had a half-time counselor, but luckily this year we were able to employ a full-time counselor, Samantha Olson, and the teachers and staff have benefited, and the students have benefited incredibly from this. She has offered much support and also brought restorative circles to our campus to work with interpersonal conflicts. So in the picture at the top, we have the kindness cart. Samantha Olson created the kindness cart. So what the students would do is they could come on their breaks or their recesses and they could make a card for a friend at school, or they could take a trinket for free and pass that along to someone else to show kindness and to spread happiness. In the bottom right-hand corner, on the bottom of the slide, we had the ACEs after school program and our student council create cards for the greater community. So we extended that kindness to our firefighters, nurses, police, and residents of local nursing homes. So we passed those out. Now, a highlight of our year was the NED virtual assembly. So in the center, you see the gentleman, the presenter, and then Ned next to him. And it was an all campus assembly. They zoomed into every single room. And we chose this slide because it has a really great message that we believe in. It says, different can be good, include others, caring is cool, I can make friends anywhere, and each person matters a lot. So after this assembly, we scheduled a buddy reading time, and the students read books on diversity, caring for others, and kindness. And after they were buddied up with their older counterparts, they discussed what they learned and just had a great time interacting with one another. I also wanted to really thank Dr. Crawford this year. He's offered so much support with student services, and I have personally learned a lot from him this year. So I just want to say thank you, Dr. Crawford. So thank you so much. On to you.
Thank you, Ms. Dillon and Ms. Croyle. So our work in social emotional learning has led to positive impact on students, as demonstrated by our CKH survey results. 100% of PYP students say their teachers treat them nicely. 95% of our students feel safe, and 96% say students treat each other respectfully. GIS does support this model, this visual, this GCC initiative to integrate all practices for a greater impact. I've specifically added IB components to other components to demonstrate how they all work together. So the IB learner profile attributes paired with the growth mindset support student well-being. The IB philosophy of inquiry and play balanced with rigorous standards and curriculum supports academic growth. And the IB skills combined with the 21st century learning skill of communicating supports student cultural competency. And we as a school consider all of these areas when we plan professional development, staffing, and student support services. All of these actions together also support academic achievement, as you heard earlier from Ms. Dillon. But I'd also like to show you a testimony of one of our end users, our students, who has been impacted by IB herself. And this video is taken from our 8th grade MYP graduation ceremony. Did it show up? There we go.
Going to an IB school has impacted me in the best ways possible. My fellow classmates and I have learned to be principled, balanced, and open-minded individuals who care for the world around us. Being surrounded by an IB atmosphere, such as GIS, has helped me become aware of my strengths and has shaped my passion for the arts and design. GIS has given my classmates and I opportunities to use our skills and challenge ourselves. Designing the school t-shirt, being a part of the yearbook committee, and being a part of creating a mural for our school are contributions that I'm proud to say that I made this year. I was able to grow and acquire traits such as being a risk taker when it came to using my creative abilities. During my middle school years at GIS, I discovered my love for collaboration and learning and quickly realized that communication skills and teamwork makes it much easier to succeed. Seeing the kind nature of my teachers has inspired me to be a good person in my community and at my school by helping and encouraging others. Thanks to them, I believe that being caring is always the first priority. Though my teachers may or may not realize it, their unfailing efforts to make us feel supported is what sparked my love for learning. I aspire to be more like them. The IB experience is all about learning from your mistakes, growing, and pushing the limits of personal and academic success, all of which I am glad to have been a part of. It is rewarding to be able to say that my sense of empathy and respect came from going to an IB school, and I can confidently say that my classmates and I have bright futures ahead of us. Thank you, and good luck, class of 2026.
So what's next? We've already begun the process and self-study for our first MYP evaluation next school year. We are also expanding TK, adding another TK class and moving back into the church. We are adding additional staff to support middle school newcomers and English learners. We're also offering and extending our after-school program to all students next year and increasing the 9-hour program to an additional 30 days of care throughout the year, including summer school. During summer school, our students will have access to care for 9 hours this year. And I'd like to thank Maury Elliott for helping us develop new partnerships this year with Mission Oaks and Arden Manor Parks and Rec for our students as well. GIS remains focused on ensuring equity, intervention, and support for students moving into next year. And with that, I'd like to thank GCC especially, and our central office staff, specifically Dr. Peterson, Mr. Sample, Dr. McCormick, Ms. Reyna, for their support of GIS and our staff this year. It hasn't been an easy year for us And I know it hasn't been an easy year for them either. And I don't think that we honor them enough for the challenges that they face and how much they advocate for our school. So on behalf of GIS, thank you very much. And with that, I'd like to ask you, do you have any questions for GIS?
Thank you, Joy and Deep and Stephanie. Very nice presentation. Are there comments, questions from board members? I saw Mr. Block first.
Yes. Where are the kids going to school after they finish 8th grade?
There is not one particular place, but we have about 5 students who are going to Miraloma next year. 4 of them have been accepted into Miraloma's IB program. Some of them are going to Visions in Education. Some are going to Futures High School. Some are going to Rosemont High School. And so we pull students from all over the county. And these are the top places where we see them going.
How many 8th graders did you have graduate, Joy?
We had not a full 2 classes this year because, you know, we lost a few, but we had 55, I believe, between 50 and 55. Ms. Dillon would know more accurately.
50 to be exact.
50?
50, yes.
50, thank you.
Usually we would traditionally have around 60.
Okay, Jack, I saw your hand.
No, I just want to thank Joy, you and your staff again for an excellent presentation. I think I heard you say that you've become an IB evaluator.
Yes, sir, I have. So I had the pleasure of being trained as an IB evaluator, and I evaluated 2 schools in April. It's quite a challenge because one was in Florida, and I accepted before realizing the 3-hour time difference, and I was up on Zoom at 4:30 in the morning. And then I had the pleasure of evaluating a school in Texas as well. And this has been really helpful for me to see the other side of what it means to be evaluated for IB and really help support our schools.
I look forward to talking to you sometime about how you compare how our program and what a great benefit to Gateway Charters that you have the opportunity to visit other schools and to look at their programs. And by the way, Adrian Peer is really just an outstanding, very, very talented 8th grader, no longer an 8th grader. Do you know where she's transferring?
Which student? Mr. Peer is our curriculum coach. Do you mean the student
I saw the
spoke
Adrian.
tonight?
Who is the student speaker again?
Oh, yes. So you saw Mr. Peer's name down there because he was recording for us. But that student is Deanna Federation, and she was chosen by her teachers as the MYP Student of the Year.
Do you know where she's going next year?
Deep, do you know where she's going?
I do not actually. Not on top of my head right now.
I don't think she's going to Miraloma. I can tell you that. She's not one of the Miraloma students.
I just think it would be nice if we could, just for public relations benefit, track some of our students over the years to, I know it's easier when they're in high school, but to track some of them, such as this 8th grader, to see where she goes and her success and to kind of keep in contact with her. But anyway, congratulations on your presentation.
Thank you, Mr. Turner. We have started tracking where our 8th graders go. We have a document for that. It was a suggestion from our WASP visiting committee a few years ago. But you're right, trying to keep up with them for another 4 years is also a challenge.
Okay, any other comments, questions from board members? Seeing none, thanks again, Joy, and your staff for your presentation. And we'll then move on to.
Well, before we move on, let's make sure one last time, we want to affirm everyone. And I do want to say, again, thank you, Team GIS, great presentation. It was always good to hear the voice of students, and also affirm Ms. Joy for her role as evaluator. It is, as Mr. Turner said, a great benefit to our organization as well, but quite an honor for Ms. Joy as well. And so before we move into the next item, Mr. Mandrick, if our administrators would like, before we move into the rest of the agenda, we would give them permission to leave if they would so like. Up to you. Up to you. So permission is given here.
Oh,
is
yes,
what I'm
permission is given. They're welcome to stay as long as they want, but I understand people have other lives, so feel free to come and go as you please.
Thank you, everybody. You did a great job.
Thanks for
Thank
attending.
you. Have a good night.
Thank you. Goodbye.
All right. I think it's back to you,
Okay.
Mr. Mandrick.
Then we will move on to item number 6, which is review of the board meeting schedule, GCC board meeting schedule for next year. People are aware we have our board meetings generally on the second Tuesday and second and fourth Tuesdays of every month. There are some months we have one, some months that we change, but generally speaking, I think the 2022-23 report follows that set of guidelines.
It's very close to what we did this year. It might be slightly different for the retreat dates, but it is only an information item for you to check with your schedule and provide any concerns, and then we would approve it at our next board meeting, Mr. Mandrick.
Right. Is there anything that jumps out to board members that they want to comment on this evening, or it will be back next board meeting for approval? Okay, if not, we move on to the consent agenda, which is item number 7. And we have 6 items on that consent agenda: the adoption of the minutes of the last board meeting, our personnel consent agenda, which covers all personnel transactions, purchases over $30,000, job descriptions 2 for executive director educational programs, and a new job description for behavioral support specialist, and then a stipend for the lead psychologist. So with that, I would entertain a motion or comments. Mr. Turner.
I move approval, and I have a question.
Wonderful. Do I have a second?
Second.
Mr. Block, second. Okay. So we are entertaining comments and questions. Mr. Turner.
Yes, looking at the job description, I guess, could I get more detail on what a behavioral specialist does in an educational setting? When I taught junior high school, it usually was the vice principal that was a behavior specialist. I'm not quite sure, looking at it, what is the role?
Yeah, I will let Dr. McCormick speak to it, but a vice principal is usually meting out discipline to people who do bad things, whereas a behavior support person is trying to create strategies to help students be more successful, as I understand it, and to help teachers and others understand what strategies would help students be more successful. Dr. McCormick, am I missing something there?
And just adding that they also specifically support our students with IEPs that have behavioral goals so that they can provide some direct one-on-one support, not only to a student, but to a teacher to ensure they can access academic content specific to their IEP goals.
So I guess so they have behavioral goals.
Mm-hmm.
And the student is then referred to the specialist, and the specialist will deal with the student.
Well, there's been something that's limiting the student with a disability from being able to access their education fully related to behavior. So what they'll do, the team will write a goal specific for that student about how they can manage their behavior, or maybe some strategies specifically around our students with autism for them to follow some specific maybe visual models. Those are things a behavior support specialist has specific training on, that they can come in and work with classroom teachers as well as the student. And they also partner with the school administrative team in overall strategies to support positive student behavior.
Is this something new in the educational system that I've just not been aware of? Or
You see different titles. Sometimes they're called behavior technicians. There is an actual credentialed position that's licensed called a BCBA, which is a specific type of behavior analyst. So there's just different terms. But yeah, probably in the last 10, 15 years, it's become more specific, I guess, with titles and licenses.
I learn something new every day. Thank you very, very much.
Okay, other questions or comments of board members on the consent agenda?
I have one.
Mr. Block.
Yeah, I see there's quite a few teachers that are separating. What's going on?
It's the same thing that's going on in the whole world. It's the great churn. It's people taking jobs closer to home. It's people moving out of state. It's people taking a job with a different district. It's people getting out of the teaching field. It's all the things you're reading in the newspapers every day. I think in the same scale you're seeing with every school district around us, so not out of the realm. So as you saw, I think there's something like 25-ish teachers that are choosing to separate for different reasons. A couple of them, by the way, are retirements as well. But we are also, as you can see, we've hired some new hires to cover some of that, and we've changed some people's position. But there isn't one thing, Director Block. It's just the world we're living in right now, honestly.
That cover your concern, Mr. Block? Yes and no.
Yeah, yes, I think he understood my explanation.
Yes.
He doesn't have to
Yes.
like it.
Yes,
None of us
that's right.
like it.
I muted myself, and then I gotta redo it. Okay,
Yeah.
I'm fine.
We all
I think
truly
I
wish
really-
it wasn't happening. Yes, the administrators in particular are the ones that carry this stress, and but we don't have a solution for it because it is a universal issue, as you know.
There's a lot of churn going on in all school districts at this point, so.
Yeah.
Okay, that will be then a roll call vote. Mr. Anderson,
Yes.
Mr. Block,
Yes.
Mr. Turner,
Yes.
I vote yes. And Miss Lilly is not with us this evening. So that moves us on to curriculum and instruction. And CCC Charter has an approval of their block grant for early literacy.
Yes, their annual report, and I'm going to assume Dr. McCormick is going to address this for us.
Absolutely. So Community Collaborative Charter K3 received an early literacy block grant from the California Department of Education. And one of the requirements of that grant is that they do an annual report that reflects the data that they said they were going to monitor in that grant and how they're doing. So that's for your approval tonight. That's one of the requirements of the grant, is that not only do they share it with their site staff, their school site council, but also with the governing board.
So what was included in their agenda was the data that was required. So they have the report in their possession if they have any questions on it. Otherwise, they're voting to approve that report.
Correct.
And board members, do you have any questions? Mr. Block?
Move to approve.
Motion from Mr. Block, second. Mr. Anderson seconds. All those, let's see, we have to go through the roll call. Mr. Anderson,
Yes.
Mr. Block,
Yes.
Mr. Turner,
Yes.
and I vote yes as well. That brings us down to board comments. Do we have any board comments? Mr. Turner.
I watched a number of the graduations on Zoom and was really impressed. I just kick back to the staff again, given the pandemic and the change of times, how effectively they handled it. I was particularly impressed with the keynote speaker at Futures High School, the presentation. I'm trying to remember his name, but who
Palmer, Mr.
yeah,
Palmer.
that was using a number of languages to welcome, congratulate the students and so forth. Obviously, just a very, very talented individual. Anyway, just take back to the staff again that and I was really surprised somebody up there shook the hands of all of those students. So I'm not sure if that's going to be in the future for many of us, but it was really impressive. So please take that back to the staff.
There was a lot of hand sanitizer on those stages.
Any other comments from board members? Closing comments, anything from staff, superintendent, board members? I guess there's an announcement of the next board meeting. Our next board meeting is scheduled for June 21st, also at 4:45 and also on Zoom and broadcast live. So.
And do we have another one the next day, guys?
Um,
or not? What is that? Don't we have two close to back in June somewhere?
I had heard rumors thereof.
So Dr. Pearson, we may be having a special board meeting, but that will be determined and announced at a later date.
It is yet to be determined whether or not we will need that. Okay. All right. So the 21st is what's on our calendar then.
Okay. Very good. So with that, I want to thank everyone for being here this evening, and we'll entertain a motion to adjourn. I see a motion from Mr. Anderson, second from
I'll second.
Mr. Turner. So all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye, opposed, no opposition. So thank you for a very successful board meeting. We do have a couple of other presentations left. Is that correct? Or is those the last two?
No, we have some more.
We have some more. Okay. Very good. We'll look forward to those. So everyone